Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. As everyone here knows, it takes an incredible team effort. Can we thank Jamie and the entire team for their extraordinary work, really? And it's special to be with such a great group of leaders here, people we've worked with over the last several years building this community practice. This is now our 4th annual conference, building a tradition, and I want to thank the sponsors who've stepped up to help support this effort. What is extraordinary is the interdisciplinary nature of this room. You're sitting next to someone who's a county commissioner or a sheriff or a doctor or a public health expert or someone with lived experience who's walked this walk and is living in recovery, all learning from one another. We know this crisis has many facets and shows up in different ways. And all of you who are doing this work are helping Colorado be a national leader. And I want to thank you all. Please give yourselves all one big round of applause. And I want to underscore that this conference is really all about learning from one another. In Colorado, we are collaborators. We are listeners. We are creative problem solvers. And there's a lot of work to do. The theme of the conference is From Ground Gained to the Horizon Ahead, which captures something really important. We've made a lot of progress, and there's a lot of work to do. I want to talk about the work that we've been doing, and it's worth noting, as you can see from this chart, we're now up to close to $900 million that we've received in Colorado. The last tranche of which comes from what had been a white whale in this, which is the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma. I don't know where Wendy Buxton-Andrade is here, I hope. There's Wendy. Wendy joined me close to 6.5 years ago or so in the spring of 2019 when I announced this lawsuit against the Sackler family. And it's taken a while, but they are now being held accountable $7.5 billion. And obviously, Colorado's share of that will support the work of everyone in this room: treatment, prevention, and recovery efforts, and more. This work has been deeply meaningful, as Jamie said, because I've gotten to know so many of you and so many who have lost, so many communities that have struggled. And there's incredible work that we need to keep doing, recognizing this money is blood money. It reflects the loss of lives, the loss of families, loved ones, the harm to communities, and much more, which means it was critical to me that we put this money to work effectively. Not all states have done that. In fact, some states have had serious efforts to backfill budgets or spend on money outside the crisis, or people aren't sure how the money is being spent at all. In Colorado, I'm really proud of how we've done this work and the impact it's had. I want to talk about some of the work we've done over the last year alone. We gave out the round 3 of infrastructure grants, $5 million. We gave, just in one grant, the naloxone bulk purchase fund, $3 million of the state's share. This has been an important point to lift up because when you see the work that's been done, and it's worth mentioning right now that in 2024 we saw a decline of 31% in fentanyl deaths in Colorado. One of the crucial reasons we're seeing that is getting naloxone available everywhere so that we can save lives is an incredible difference maker. How do we raise awareness that every life matters and all of us should be prepared to save someone's life? And then how do we follow up when someone's life is saved to make sure we can help someone find the path towards recovery? Because there are people who have multiple overdoses, who've been saved multiple times by naloxone. And that's a warning sign. That's a call to action. Well, Colorado right now is using the state share. We got to find a more sustainable funding commitment because this is such a foundational, smart public health investment. We also just launched, as Jamie mentioned, $12 million Resilient Colorado grant. That's from our state share. And then working with the COAC to administer an $11 million infrastructure share. We've been building the infrastructure to put these investments to good use. And we've been seeing the outcomes. When I mentioned about this decline in fentanyl deaths, those are 340 or so lives that are with us today, each of them opening up a whole new world. That's the meaning and the impact of the work we're doing. And you think about all the different areas. We've worked really hard. Last year we acknowledged we'll do some more of that this year. Getting medication addiction treatment in every single jail in Colorado. The youth prevention work and the Connect Effect campaign that we launched, recognizing that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. And that's got to start with young people. And we know there are a lot of people struggling, and we know that those who are most likely to be struggling with addiction are not always people who are in identical circumstances. It has hit our indigenous communities, our black communities, harder than others. Jamie mentioned before about equity, which is something we're going to keep an eye on to making sure that we're lifting up all communities knowing this crisis has been devastating. Part of how we're doing this is through transparency. I mentioned before, some states we're not sure where the money's being spent. That's not okay. In Colorado, every dollar spent by all 19 regions, every local government and the state share, it's on our website in an easy-to-see dashboard. And we just issued guidance making this point even more prescriptively clear. The money here, this blood money, it's not to backfill budgets, it's for new programs. And I want to also lift up, and I see many of our local government partners here, what a great initiative that this is between state and local government. As many people in local government here know, in Colorado, relations between our state and our local governments are not always A+, but in this area, they are A+. And they start with respect and listening. Because when we sat down years ago, and Heidi Williams was a key part of it, she's now, fittingly enough, executive director of the Metro Mayors Conference. She was a former mayor. And it started with respect and the question, what do you need? And local government said, and Jamie referred to this, we need an ability to get these funds without a lot of bureaucracy that gets in the way and slows things down. And so we created a framework where 90% of the money goes to the local and the regional level. And we really worked hard, and sadly in Colorado we don't have one regional map. So when we started this, we're like, I was new to this, so I said, what's the regional map for Colorado? And they said, economic development map, transportation map, water map, criminal justice map, and I was like, oi. So we had to create our new map for the opioid regions, which are not exactly like any other map. And I'm not saying we necessarily got it perfect, but we worked together to figure out what the right regions were. And still, I would emphasize, you can have cooperation across regions that can play a crucial role as well. And these regional councils have been working hard on their plans for how to address the crisis. And a raison d'etre, a key reason for this conference, is so that regions can make sure we're learning from one another. No one has a monopoly on truth. No one has got this all figured out. We're working to learn from one another. I want to mention a word or two what Jamie said earlier, which is more than ever, it feels like Colorado is alone in this work. I wish we had a federal government partner. I wish the federal government partner was funding a naloxone program nationwide, a commitment to medication addiction treatment in jails and prisons nationwide. I wish Medicaid was not cut off access when people are incarcerated. Someday we will see those wishes enacted on. But at this point, we're a little bit more playing defense. So when the federal government tried to cut $230 million from mandated spending, public health spending for Colorado, including behavioral health, we had to go to court to get that money. We did, we won, we now have that money. Similar in many of your communities, you know the power of AmeriCorps volunteers, how they've made an impact in your communities working on these issues, and the impact that that service has made on the volunteers themselves. That was another example where the administration cut those funds. We had to go to court. We got the $10 million we're owed and preserved AmeriCorps in Colorado. We will continue in Colorado to be a model for our nation about what responsible governance looks like, and I'm proud of what we're going to showcase here today. Let me offer a few key highlights. First, how do we develop evidence-based strategy? How do we learn what works and replicate it? And how do we have the honesty to say, well, we tried this, it didn't really work, I'd recommend you not try this. And that's important because we have life-saving work that we need to keep doing, and we need to make sure that we're listening and learning from everyone. It's very important that we all work hard to walk the walk. I'll say a few minutes about that in a minute. At our department, we've become certified as a recovery-friendly workplace. I'm proud that the University of Colorado School of Public Health has developed this initiative and a certification program to show, are you committed to building a culture where employees who are impacted by opioid use disorder are not stigmatized. Instead, we are creating a shared commitment to people living in recovery and resources and space for dialogue. That is critical because all of us, whether we know it or not, know people, work with people, have friends and family who are in recovery. And stigma around mental health and addiction is very much with us, and we've got to continue to do the work to address that. Part of seeing those who are affected is acknowledging the harms that have happened, people telling the stories, and again, this year, like last year, we have an exhibit called Stories in Black and White, to recognize that although you may say the statistics, the numbers, these are our friends, our family, loved ones, community members, and it's important to recognize those impacts. We also are doing a Nothing About Us Without Us panel, and this is going to help ensure that we're hearing and seeing those who are living in recovery. We're also going to have, as Jamie mentioned, storytelling in action Ignite sessions as well. Tonight we're going to celebrate some awards and progress, including recovery-friendly workplace champions and peer recovery jail champions. A few final notes before I introduce our next moderator and panel. Let's keep staying bold and looking for what experiments and innovations we can find. And let's keep listening and learning and staying connected to one another to support one another and learn from one another. And let's hold ourselves accountable. Having transparency means we're being clear about what the money is being spent on. Let's work to measure and reflect what works and what doesn't. I am so proud of the work of everyone in this room and building these communities of practice and care and being part of a community who listens to one another and shares important, clear goals with conviction, candid, and open dialogue. Thank you all for doing this important work. It's an honor to serve with you. Let's get to work. I want to introduce our next moderator and give some props. As we had this conference a few years ago, we had one of our members of the Opioid Abatement Council who had been very open about living in recovery And we had other members, other leaders here, looking at Commissioner Terry Hoffmeister here, who had less familiarity, but who came and listened. And part of Raquel's power is she has an incredible voice and courage. And what this community has been able to do is put at the center, and looking at Lori Lasky, who's done this very well in the San Luis Valley, to really listen to people who've walked the walk. It strikes me as hard to believe that any state, any community wouldn't be lifting up and listening to those who have walked the walk, but that is the case. We're fortunate in Colorado that we have Raquel here, both in this room and in Colorado, and that she's offered to serve and lead. Without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the founder of Hard Beauty, Raquel Garcia.
So are you?